and particularly yesterday on the broadcast. We were concerned about what we saw in San Diego with the killing of 3 people at that mosque. That's murder. But we're also asking questions. Why would guys with lightning bolts on their gas can, that's a Nazi symbol, it appeared to be, why would neo-Nazis be attacking the Islamists? Aren't they united, just as the Grand Mufti of Palestine worked with Adolf Hitler? I mean, they all hate the Jews, so wouldn't they be united? One guy, Andy Now, on his X account today said, was this friendly fire? ? Meaning, was this done in order to provoke a response, to crack down on the Second Amendment and get a response from the conservative right, because these guys are pushing for civil war? Well, we learned today from Trevor Loudon that these guys are reportedly a part of a national Bolshevik movement that is a mixture of communism and Nazism. And that's exactly what they want to do, is create conflict in America to the point of gaslighting sides so they'll fight each other, even if that means carrying out an attack against the Islamists in order to cause backlash against those who are speaking about Islam and have laws brought up that criminalize free speech, calling it Islamophobia, or cause there to be laws that crack down the Second Amendment and thus cause a reaction by the right to come against the government who's taking their guns. They're going to do whatever they can to try to create a civil war in America. Trevor Loudon says you can trace this all the way back to Putin and to Russia, and what he refers to as active measures, a historical term. Defeating your enemy by getting their own people to wage war against their own people. You get the classes stirred up, the people groups, the economic groups. We're going to talk to Bill Federer about this historically. Garland Favorito is going to join us to talk about where we're at with election integrity, the fall election coming up quickly, what's going on in Georgia, which is an important state for federal elections as well, as you well know. We'll get an update from Garland. Then we're going to get a special tour that was sent in, a few tours, 3 different recordings by our tour guide on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco. I'm already tired, folks. It's only Wednesday. This cold, this whatever I got. Logan's had it. Melissa got it. Then I got it. So Aaron Lavarco, he's our tour guide and our reporter on the ground in Israel, brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. He did 3 recordings touring us through Jerusalem. We want to bring those to you tonight as well. Well, listening friends, one of our viewers sent this to me. We talked about water, sewage water, toilet water being turned into drinking water. Look at this, Logan. Lakeside. I think this is in California. Back in 2019. Does wastewater become drinking water? All the wastewater is being flushed and drained into septic tanks or sewers can be recycled. People aren't often comfortable with that idea. They can't imagine taking toilet water and recycling it into clean drinking water. In fact, a questionnaire found that almost half of those surveyed said they would be willing to try recycled wastewater. Just over 1 in 10 said there was absolutely no way they'd drink it. Would you? It might be the only way to prevent water shortages. I know. You want to get on the mic on that one, Logan?
How many? Just 1 in 10 said they would?
1 in 10. Only 1 in 10 don't want to drink water that was surrounded with poop.
What number said they would? 9 of 10, or is there another option?
Almost half. Almost half of those surveys said they'd be willing to try poop water. They're going to say, oh, Brannon, it's not poop water. It's already been filtered out about 5 times. All right, whatever. I'm still not interested in drinking it. You trust this government?
Guess I'm the 1 in 10.
Yeah, you and me. Throughout the world, there are countries struggling to meet the public's demand for water scarcity, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Well, we're not talking about around the world. I want to talk about America. Let's see here. Think about how they process it. California's Orange County residents have already embraced recycled water. When one of the county's reservoirs reached critical lows over years of drought conditions, the Orange County Water District took action. The plant cleans and returns up to 100 million gallons of wastewater each day and returns it to the public water system. The treated wastewater is mixed with the main water supply and reaches hundreds of thousands of people. Well, there you go. Would you like some tap water? No. Well, what we were saying is, folks, you might want to get the water filters. Worldviewwater.net, worldviewwater.net, okay? Worldviewwater.net, because you can use that water filter to filter out this garbage, okay? Worldview water. So you're like, well, what choice do I have? Okay, but I don't trust the government and their filters. Do you? No. So I would definitely use a water filter, and I do. I have one under my kitchen sink and one on my shower. Worldviewwater.net, worldviewwater.net. One of our listeners sent me that. So there you go. Thank you to the individual that sent me that. Let's see. What else we got, Logion? Let's see. Ooh, yeah, our Revelation series that's now Institute class, 53 lessons. You watch a video, then you get an overview worksheet to read what you just learned, and then you take an exam. And at the end, you get a certificate that you completed the Revelation course. Apparently, you guys are really liking this idea. We did this for years, by the way. We had online courses for years, and then the technology got old, and we just got so busy with other things, we never updated it. But this apparently is something you guys are wanting. So thank you to all of you joining the Vault at worldviewtube.com/vault. By the way, Logan, you have that new spot? The new spot? If you want to watch the fall conference coming up in October, you're going to have to be a Vault member. Okay, I just can't afford to give away so much anymore. It's because the giving, and I understand people are having a hard time, but at some point, I got to have the revenue to keep this network going, and we're just not bringing enough with the foundation. So we're going to have to get more aggressive with the Vault until we see our donations come up. We've lost a few top donors due to problems that they have encountered of no fault of their own. So, no, you're not going to be able to watch the fall conference Friday night, October 23rd, Saturday, October 24th. I might let you in for an hour, see what's going on. But if you want to watch the full thing, live stream it, you're going to have to be a Vault member. We also are going to be doing a Bible prophecy conference coming up soon that will be online. So there's going to be a lot of benefits. The classes on Revelation, the new one coming out on grave influence, that's going to be launched soon. You'll be able to do a whole class on 21 radicals ruling America from the grave. You should put your high school kids and college kids through that online. And you don't have to buy it. If you're a Vault member, it's already there. Worldviewtube.com/vault. My commentary on the book of Revelation that'll be out this fall, it'll be in there as an ebook. You'll be able to search it. We have a brand new powerful Bible software program that will be ready very, very soon. That'll be a part of the Vault. Worldviewtube.com/vault. Membership has its rewards, okay? So please join so that you get great access to 36 years of radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, and so much more. And we have the revenue to keep capitalizing this organization, to keep on the air and keep developing these things. The software so far, the Bible software we're developing that allow you to search our entire library, ask it a question and get it back an answer that's isolated and quarantined of being only our stuff that's trusted, that so far has cost me $80,000 in the last 12 months. And we're not done yet. I can't offer that for free if donations are not coming in at big numbers, okay? And they're not compared to what we have done because some of our donors are running into problems as well. So I need your memberships to the Worldview Tube Vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, okay? Please consider joining. I'm trying to add a lot of new stuff there for you, and I'm not raising the price. I'm trying not to raise the price. But again, I need a lot of you joining because if a lot of you join, if a lot join, it's like, I don't need to raise the price. People are joining in big enough numbers. I don't need to raise the price. If not, I have to raise the price because I'm like, well, not enough people join, so I'm going to have to up the price for those who are joining because I have a certain level I'm going to have to meet in order to justify it all. So please consider joining at today's rate of just as low as $7.99 a month. All right, before we go to Bill Federer, Logan is excellent at producing these spots. What would I do without this young man, Logan, and the team in there? Max is doing a great job and getting all these courses up. first revelation, then grave influence coming and more. These guys are great workers, great, talented guys. Here's one brand new spot by Logan Howse on the Worldview Tube Vault. Watch this.
For over 35 years, Brannon Howse has helped Christians understand the times. Now everything he's built lives in one place, the Worldview Tube Vault. Step inside and you'll find thousands of hours of exclusive programming on the Bible, culture, and the worldview issues shaping our world. Ebooks, audiobooks, documentaries, and decades of teaching, all in one searchable library. There's a brand new courses feature, led by our first release, the Book of Revelation, taught verse by Brannon Howse. Grave Influence and more courses are on the way. Read Brannon's books, Marxianity, Grave Influence, Religious Trojan Horse, Put Your Beliefs to the Test, and his upcoming Revelation commentary, every title also available as an audiobook. Plus all his documentaries, Siege, Sabotage, and Brainwashed America, with Part 3 coming soon. Vault members can also stream the 2026 Worldview Weekend Conference, plus presentations from past Ozarks conferences. And coming soon, our new Bible and Worldview software, answering your questions from a trusted quarantine database of sound teachers and scholars. Join today at worldviewtube.com/vault. Plans start at just $7.99 a month.
There you go. Just $7.99 a month, folks. That's pretty reasonable for all you're getting, to be honest with you. So thank you for joining now, worldviewtube.com/vault, and get started on that Revelation study that's now available. Many of you are doing it, Logan said. All right. Let me remind you, we are brought to you by you. That's one way you can support us, worldviewtube.com/vault. Of course, other ways include supporting us and I think supporting your health at the same time. You'll find all these sponsors at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. And of course, I take glutathione every day. And by the way, I've been swishing a lot with Numi. Okay, glutathione is one scoop. It's the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. Feeds you down to the mitochondria of your cells. Of course, Dolly gets half a scoop on her food every morning. I've been swishing with the Numi a lot. So is Logan. So is Melissa. Because he got it, then Melissa got it, then I got the crud. But I have to tell you, folks, 2 days ago and yesterday, my throat was burning like it was on fire. And I just kept using this Numi. My throat's not sore anymore. I have the congestion, but my throat's not sore like it was. I'm telling you, I believe in this. Not only do I do this every day to detox my cells, but when I feel like I'm getting sick or I am sick, I swish with this a lot. I mean, I take it with me. I keep it with me. Swish for 2-3 minutes, spit it out, swallow it. I so believe in this because it's science. Did you know there's 165,000 studies on glutathione? This is not a joke, okay? In fact, glutathione not only helps to detox your cells, according to the studies, it's naturally occurring in your body. It just starts to decrease around age 20. You don't live. You're not alive if you don't have glutathione in your system. Did you know that? That's what I've been told by the MDs and the doctors and the scientists. And did you know that the studies show glutathione can help remove mercury and lead, aluminum and whatnot from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's? And I said Parkinson's, not Perkinson's. To which you might be surprised, we actually went to Perkins the other day because I wanted breakfast food and there was nothing available. I went to Perkins. Didn't go so well, did it, Logan? The service left a lot to be desired. I don't think I'll be going back for a long time. I almost walked out the door with a French silk pie, Logan, but I decided it wasn't worth it. I don't need sugar. It's inflammatory, adds weight. But I said the other day, it helped prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. But I meant Parkinson's. But anyway, I got Perkins on my mind. I thought, I want breakfast. And there was no breakfast restaurants open that time of the day. So we went, Melissa and I and Logan went to Perkins. And I have to tell you, they need to step their game up, don't they, in my opinion? Would you agree?
Oh.
Yeah, I wasn't too happy. But then again, I could see why people are going to go toward robots. There wasn't a lot of workers in there working, were there?
No.
We waited a long time.
And there wasn't a lot of people there either.
No, there wasn't a lot of people there, but yet we waited forever, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if they had a robot here that would just roll up here and then let me pick the menu, I just want some hash browns, some scrambled eggs, some coffee, not too hard. And then let it go to the kitchen or send that order to the kitchen electronically by Wi-Fi. Then it could run off to the kitchen, and then the cook could put it on the robot, and the robot could just roll back out on the tray of the robot. I'd gladly get up, disperse everybody's food to them. You don't even need a worker. I mean, at that point, I'm like, why not go to robots? Because they were having a hard time keeping up, and there was hardly anyone in the restaurant. We had to sit forever. I mean, we almost walked out, didn't we? And I'm not picking on that Perkins. It's probably the labor market. So it's, in some regards, it's probably not their fault, right? It's the labor market. A lot of people just don't want to work. And Logan, I don't know. Some of these people are making more money on social media than they are working a waitressing job, aren't they? Are you on mic or are you just yelling?
Yeah, they are.
We've got a generation being raised that thinks they can go on social media, and I don't even want to talk about what some of them are doing. But some of them are making a living doing some pretty immoral things on social media, aren't they?
Yeah, more than a living.
Really? How was it working out for some of them?
No, I'm saying some of them are making like professional athlete salaries doing it.
So what young lady wants to go waitress tables if she's been taught by the culture that it's acceptable now to go on one of these websites and do these things, these immoral things? Who's going to go to waitress tables when you start to normalize these things? I'm not saying that's the only problem. I'm just simply saying when young people begin to, and the culture begins to become so immoral that people are not afraid of any kind of cultural backlash or reputational backlash, they start doing things that you're like, really? That's not a problem anymore for people. I saw an article the other day where a well-known actress is going to be in some kind of movie that's going to be pretty raunchy. I mean, like not pretty raunchy, really, really, really raunchy. And it was a headline article. I thought to myself, why would a well-known actress do that? Well, apparently there's not any stigma anymore to that kind of thing. And that whole thing trickles down into the culture. And now young people are doing things they should not be doing. Then you got young people, young ladies, I don't know if we want to call them ladies, but young people that now are doing the whole sugar daddy thing, right, Logan? So again, why are you going to wait tables when you have people within a culture that have been told this is the way to get ahead? Am I out in left field with this, or am I right, Logan?
No, that's definitely going on. I think it plays a part.
Sure it does.
I think it also just some people are lazy.
Yes. But when you say, how are they making it though? Those that don't want to do those things, how are they making it, Logan? How do they pay their bills? Their parents just paying for them?
I guess, or living off the government.
Well,
or fraud.
Or fraud. Yeah. Well, I was sitting in that restaurant waiting on some scrambled eggs and hash browns and coffee, and I thought, at this point, I'll take the robot, right? I'll take the robot, send the robot out, I'll poke in my order, go off to the kitchen, get the order, bring it back. I'll even gladly stand up and be the waiter and dish it out of the plate, onto the table, everybody's plates. Ugh, to be a business owner like that and have to rely on the workforce, it's really sad. But anyway, back to where I was. Numi can help detox your cells. So get that. You'll find it all at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Support us and your health at the same time. We had a breakfast place here in town, Logan. It was very clean, very nice. I won't say the name of it. It went out of business. It lasted a whopping, what, 6 months, a year?
I don't even know what you're talking about now.
The one that used to be in the corner there, the corner by the railroad tracks. where the sports store had been in there.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
How long did that last?
Not even a year, I don't think.
And that was a nice breakfast place.
And then all the IHOPs around here.
Yeah, we used to have a really nice IHOP that we would like to go to. Nice.
During COVID, they all shut down.
They all
There's
shut
only
down.
One in the area now.
I would go to, well, your mom and I would go to IHOP about once every 2 weeks because we love breakfast food. We love to get at night breakfast sometimes on the weekend. Some scrambled eggs, hash browns. And we'd go to IHOP. It was always clean. Service was good. Folks in there knew, they recognized us. We have Waffle House down here. We like the Waffle House. That might shock people that I go to the Waffle House, but I like a good greasy spoon every now and then. The Waffle House, woo, they got good food. I have a buddy of mine up in Minnesota. He's the closest Waffle House to him, he says, is Kansas City in the Twin Cities. He has literally said to me that he was willing to drive 7 hours down to Kansas City just to eat at the Waffle House, maybe see a friend or a relative in town and drive back. That's how much he loves the Waffle House. I have one 10 minutes away. I love the Waffle House. That's good stuff. But yeah, we had an IHOP right here in town. During COVID, that thing closed down, never reopened. But why on earth could that restaurant that serves breakfast, that was so nice, couldn't even stay open for a year? I would not want to be in the restaurant business. That's a tough business. I mean, it's a tough business. But I don't know, you would think restaurants that serve, there's not enough restaurants in our town anyway. The ones that are popular are just packed to the gills. I don't know. Anyway, I'm off
You're
track.
better off doing a coffee shop now than a breakfast place.
I just said that the truth. What was that place that just opened up that's nonstop? Nonstop. What's that
There's
thing?
a place in Germantown. It's a coffee shop, and it's every Saturday morning. Every day it's packed.
And the profit margin on that, Logan?
It's all the younger girls get $8, $10 coffees.
Sheesh. What's that one that just opened up here on Poplar? It's a line out the door for Hunt Brothers or
No.
something Brothers.
Something Brothers.
That's been a line out the door since that thing opened. And it's, what is it, kind of like coffee and then
Dutch
ice?
Bros.
Dutch Bros. What is Dutch Bros? Like coffee?
It's just coffee.
But it's also iced coffee too, right?
Yeah, like different types of coffee.
It's packed. Since the day it opened, it's been packed. Well, you got to find the niche. But of course, the problem is if that niche goes away. But Starbucks, I was kind of shocked Starbucks lasted as long as it did, as expensive as it was. I was shocked that went that. I just thought, well, people regularly do that, but they will. All right, I'm off track tonight. WorldviewStore.com, WorldviewTube.com/sponsors. WorldviewTube, I got Steve. Well, there you go. WorldviewTube.com/sponsors. All right. Joining me now is Bill Federer. Earlier today, and you should go back and watch it, I did a full interview with Trevor Loudon on these individuals, the two guys, I think 17 and 18, that sadly murdered 3 people at a mosque in San Diego. Now, this is kind of a mosque that's tied controversy of its own, that's for sure. But we did a piece yesterday on radio and TV at 1 Central with Annie Cyrus. And I was trying to figure out what's going on here. The narrative didn't make sense. Guys that have gas cans that had the lightning bolt of the SS on it, remember that? Why would guys supposedly aligned with the SS worldview be attacking a mosque? Because weren't those two groups working together during the Holocaust? The Grand Mufti of Palestine, al-Husseini of the Muslim Brotherhood, and Hitler? Yes. The answer is yes. Well, the more we delve into it, we found out that these guys are really what you would call national Bolsheviks. Trevor described it today as really a mixture between a coming together of communism and Nazism, socialism and Nazism, communism and Nazism, more accurately. And apparently the goal is to start a civil war in America. They want to start what they call a holy race war. A holy race war in America. That's very interesting because I have a book written many, many years ago. It had a few updates along the way. It was written by a friend of mine, the late John Stormer, who I've interviewed. By the way, you could go into my vault and you could find interviews where I interviewed John Stormer, who wrote this book, None Dare Call It Treason, which Bill Federer probably knew him. I'll ask Bill because John was based in St. Louis and Bill lived in St. Louis for many, many, many years. And Stormer wrote this book, and Ronald Reagan, he told me on the interviews, used to order it by the case when he met Reagan while they were both working on the election of trying to get elected Barry Goldwater. I think that was 1964. And Reagan used to order it up by the case, he said. Send him a check and he'd send him a case and he'd pass them out. Well, the book got updated along the way. It sold 7 million copies. Look at what he writes where you go to Bill Federer on this. Because, folks, they are still trying to create a race war in America. Because you see, as Trevor was explaining today, by attacking this mosque, one Andy Nye on Twitter called it a friendly fire, ? Why would they do this? And that's what we were trying to ask and answer yesterday. Now we have our answer, I think. Their goal, I think, is to use things like this to cause the left to crack down on the Second Amendment and thereby incite the right. So anything they can do to create racial strife, racial, religious, economic strife, it doesn't matter. The change comes from the conflict. They want a civil war. Now, Trevor went through great detail to show how this has got the worldview of Alexander Dugin, who's known as Putin's brain, who's openly written. In fact, I have a quote by him, and I'll bring it up here in a minute. He's openly written about creating racial problems in America, internal conflict in America. But in this book, None Dare Call It Treason, so many years ago, John Stormer was warning about this. He writes, what happened at Kent State University, remember that? Was not the first demonstration of the communist ability or willingness to stir people to violence. Riots stemming from conflicts between races killed nearly 150 persons and injured thousands of others between 1964 and 1967. Looting, sniper attacks on police, and massive civil disobedience destroyed the centers of almost 100 American cities. Over $1 billion worth of property was destroyed. Think about what that number would be today in today's dollars. As Americans started to ask, why? Evidence mounted that the upheaval was not purely the result of spontaneous combustion. They were part of the communist program for destroying America's ability to resist. In February 1967, FBI Chief J. Edgar Hoover told a committee of the U.S. Congress, quote, communists and other subversives and extremists strive and labor ceaselessly to precipitate racial trouble and take advantage of racial discord in this country. Such elements were active in exploiting and aggravating the riots, for example, in Harlem, Watts, Cleveland, and Chicago, end quote. Other law enforcement agencies and judicial commissions have issued similar warnings. On the fourth day of the Harlem riots in 1964, acting New York City Mayor Paul Scrivan stated that, quote, known communists, end quote, had been involved in the inflammatory rallies and meetings which preceded the riots, and that communist money had probably financed some of the demonstrations. Former communist Philip Abbott Luce later confirmed his charges. In his book, Road to Revolution, written after he left the conspiracy, the communist conspiracy, Luce told how he and other communists were, quote, in the center of these riots and did everything possible to expand and extend the riot condition, end quote. He said, quote, all of us good communists were responsible for some work in the riots, and each of us longed for the possibility that Harlem would herald the beginning of a nationwide guerrilla warfare, end quote. Cuyahoga County Special Grand Jury, which investigated the 1966 summer riots in Cleveland, Ohio, reported, quote, the jury finds the outbreak of lawlessness and disorder was both organized, precipitated, and exploited by a relatively small group of trained and disciplined professionals at this business. They were aided and abetted willingly or otherwise by misguided people of all ages and colors, many of whom were avowed believers in violence and extremism, and some of whom are either members or officers of the Communist Party, end quote. Police officials from Cincinnati, Ohio, Nashville, Tennessee, and other cities told the Senate Judiciary Committee that racial harmony existed in their cities until outside agitators moved in. And of course, many of you know about Carmichael, Stokely Carmichael. He's one of the guys behind the Black Panthers. The Nashville Police Captain John Soros testified that an April 8, 1967 riot in his city followed a week of agitation by Stokely Carmichael. An outbreak of violence in Dayton, Ohio followed a speech by H. Rap Brown, who succeeded Carmichael as head of the SNCC. That's the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Brown spoke in East St. Louis, Illinois on September 10, 1967. 4 days later, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch summed up what happened. Quote, in the 4 days since Brown's appearance at Lincoln Senior High School, there have been almost 80 fires, most of them minor, 13 injuries, 1 death, and 49 arrests. Arson is suspected in many of the fires. No damage estimates have been made, end quote. Brown was also blamed for a riot in Cambridge, Maryland on July 24th. Cambridge Police Chief Bryce Kenningham told Congress that a, quote, highly inflammatory speech, end quote, by Brown was, quote, the sole reason for our riot, end quote. The street was full of guns seconds after the speech. It was well organized and a well-planned affair. That's what he said. The speech received national press coverage at the time. Brown told the Cambridge, Maryland crowd, quote, get a gun. I don't care if it's a BB gun with poison BBs. America's got to come around or black people are going to burn it down, end quote. As these police officers testified of the role agitators such as Carmichael and Brown played in sparking riots, Carmichael himself visited Castro's Cuba and said that America's Negroes would wage a guerrilla, quote, fight to the death, end quote, in Havana for a meeting of Latin American communist revolutionary leaders. That's what he said before them. Carmichael said, quote, in Newark, we applied the war tactics of the guerrillas. We are preparing groups of urban guerrillas for our defense in the cities. The price of these rebellions is a high price one must pay. This fight is not going to be a simple street meeting. It's going to be a fight to the death, end quote. And I could go on how this has been a tactic going back so many years for racial strife. What's interesting is you have Black Americans agitating for it. You have white Americans agitating for it. You have Islamists agitating for it. Joining me now to discuss this is historian Bill Federer. Bill, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brandon, great to be with you.
Thank you. I know you were friends with John Stormer too, right? I mean, he was right in your backyard in St. Louis, right?
Right. I spoke together for him many times, and he did have his book published of 7 million copies, and he personally gave it to Ronald Reagan. And but the point you're bringing out is pretty clear. Matter of fact, there's a gentleman named Manning Johnson, who was a black man who became a communist, who later left and was exposing their tactics. And he wrote a book, and he said that the plot to use the Negroes as the spearhead or expendables was concocted by Stalin in 1928, nearly 10 years after the formation of the World Organization of Communism. So here Stalin himself was an expert at looking at the different groups in a country and figuring out how can he pit them against each other. In 1964, the KGB leader Yuri Andropov invented the PLO, recruited Yasser Arafat, invented the concept of Palestinian. Prior to Yuri Andropov, there was no concept of Palestinian. They were the ones who Palestine was the homeland of the Jews. And so, but he wanted to stir up division in the Middle East so that the Middle East would not side with America. But this tactic, if I can just give a couple points, I only have a few minutes, but the Swedes in the 1700s, 1788, around then, had a leader named Gustav III. And his big enemy was Russia. And he wanted to have funding for his military for a war with Russia, but Parliament would not approve the funding. So this leader, Gustav of Sweden, had the tailor of the Royal Swedish Opera sew Russian uniforms and had Swedish soldiers put on the Russian uniforms and had them stage an attack at a Swedish outpost at Pumala. And when word spread across the country like wildfire that the Russians had attacked at Pumala, the Swedish parliament quickly approved the funding that Gustav wanted. And so this concept was improved upon by Hitler, who wanted to invade Poland in 1939. But world public opinion would have viewed the Nazis as the aggressors. And so in the Gleiwitz incident, you had Nazi soldiers put on Russian uniforms, Polish uniforms, and attack a German outpost at Gleiwitz. And they had a radio tower there, and they were giving play-by-play reports. The Polish are shooting, the Polish are attacking here, the Polish are this, that, and it spread around Germany and the world that the Polish had attacked Germany. And so Germany said, well, hey, we're justified in invading Poland because they attacked us first, not realizing the world didn't realize that it was the Germans dressed as Polish to incite it. This happened again with Finland. The Soviets wanted to invade Finland, but world public opinion would have viewed the Soviets as the aggressors. So in 1939, the Soviets shelled one of their own Russian villages on the Finnish border and blamed the Finnish for attacking. And this gave the Soviets an excuse to invade Finland in what's called the Winter War. And then you have 1931, and Japan is expansionistic and wanting to invade China. And again, world public opinion would have viewed Japan as the aggressor. Well, the Chinese were nice enough to let the Japanese have a railroad along the coast. And the Japanese claimed that there was a railroad explosion. And they blamed it on the Chinese, and they used that as an excuse to invade China. And they killed over 100,000 Chinese in Nanking, China. And later, there was an international investigation, and they walked the entire railroad line, and there was no explosion. The whole thing was fabricated because the Japanese wanted an excuse to invade. This happened again in Turkey in 1955. You had previous leaders in Turkey, like Ataturk, wanted to be secular leaders and get rid of the fezzes and the burqas and the calls to prayer. And Turkey was becoming more secular. Well, in 1955, they had a leader named Menderes, and he wanted to be the next caliph. And he was really bothered by these remaining Greek Christian neighborhoods in the capital city of Istanbul. And so he had a plot. And the plot was that a Turkish university student would go over to Greece and blow up the home of Ataturk, and then blow up the Turkish embassy in Greece and make it look like it was the Greek Orthodox that were doing this attack. Well, the bombs never went off, but the Turkish newspapers ran with the story anyway. And they had the front page that the Greeks had blown up Ataturk's home, and the Greeks, and it whips up the city of Istanbul into a frenzy, and they attack that remnant Greek neighborhood and destroys businesses and churches and dig up graves and all kinds of terrible stuff. And the remnant Greeks had to flee. And so this concept is a pretty typical political thing. Now, I don't know the exact details of what happened with the attack on the mosque in California, but we do know that there are those that want to cause an internal division in America. The word diabolical means to divide, right? To tear apart. And so how do you destroy a marriage? Sow division. How do you destroy a family? Sow division. How do you destroy a church? Sow division. How do you destroy a country? Sow division. It's introducing an autoimmune disease into the body politic. What's an autoimmune disease? It's where your own immune system starts attacking your own joints and organs. You have inflammation. You have a fire, a war going on inside of your own body. And so that's the tactic. One other story, in 1934, Stalin is in Russia, and he is facing a growing anti-Stalinist movement. And he says, how can I get rid of these anti-Stalinists? Well, at the same time, Stalin had a supporter. His name was Sergei Kirov. And he was an eloquent speaker. The people loved him. And Stalin was feeling a little uneasy that the people might actually like Sergei Kirov more than Stalin. So Stalin had an idea. He would assassinate his friend and supporter, Sergei Kirov, eliminating a potential rival, and blame the assassination on the anti-Stalinists, because the anti-Stalinists didn't like Stalin and did not like Stalin's supporter, Sergei Kirov. So Stalin used this as an excuse to do a crackdown on the anti-Stalinists, having hearings, arrests, detaining, and he killed over 1 million anti-Stalinists in between 1936 and 1938. And so, again, these tactics of wanting to sow division, but blame it on your opponents. One other, if I have a moment here, is Hitler. 1933 had brown shirts, and these were people that would create crises and blame it on their opponents. And so the brown shirts, would smash windows and block arms and block streets. Well, there's a fire that burns the Capitol building in Berlin, the Reichstag. And evidence points to Hitler's own supporters, the brown shirts, setting the fire. But in this confusion with the Capitol going up in flames, Hitler blames his political opponents. And in the confusion and panic, he rounds up all his political opponents and has them shot without a trial. And the dust settles. Hitler does not have any political opponents left, and he makes himself the Führer, the leader. But I bring these stories up to bring out how this is a classic concept that you want to, even you go back to Gideon in the Bible, and he defeats 100,000 Midianites, and nobody's thinking about invading Israel. But Gideon has lots of sons, and he fools around with a woman from Shechem and has an illegitimate son named Abimelech. And so Abimelech grows up, and he's jealous that his half-brothers are the leaders after Gideon, and he wants power. And so Abimelech goes to the town of Shechem, and he says, is it better for you that the sons of Gideon reign over you? Remember also that I am your flesh and your bone. And the people say, well, we got to support Abimelech because he is our brother. It's the first case of identity politics in the Bible. And so they go to the temple of Baal-berith, and they take 70 pieces of silver, wherewith Abimelech hired vain and worthless persons, rioters, Antifa people, right, demonstrators, to do what? To commit violence. And they go to his brother's house at Ophrah, and they kill all the sons of Gideon, and Abimelech makes himself king. And so that would have been the end of the Hebrew Republic, but some lady a couple of years later threw a millstone over the wall and it killed Abimelech. And they had a century and a half before they got Saul to end the Hebrew Republic. But again, here's a story of somebody intentionally hiring rioters to sow this division. And it's sort of like the Southern Poverty Law Center giving money to the KKK. It's like, I thought the KKK were your enemy. What are you doing giving them money? They need an enemy. It's like Castro said, the revolution needs the anti-revolutionary. It's antithesis. And if enemies were lacking, they had to be fabricated. You can't organize people against an enemy that doesn't exist. You have to fabricate an enemy so that you can sow this division and get the war going. The goal is a radical left and a radical right, and then cause fighting between them. In China, they called it color revolutions between the blacks and the reds. That was the name of the party. The blacks were the business owners and educated people and doctors and lawyers, and they had more money, and the reds were the working class, and they would pit them against each other. They called them, again, color revolutions. In the Congo, you had the Belgian colonizers coming in, and the people in the Congo saw themselves as one. But the colonizers would measure them and their features and their heights, and they would say, you're a Hutu and you're a Tutsi, and made them go down to the government offices and register as a Hutu or a Tutsi. And then they stirred up division between them, and they genocided each other and weakened each other, and then the colonizing power was able to take over the whole country. And so this idea is if America is your enemy and you can't defeat America on the battlefield, what do? You got to sow division within. Well, how do you do division? You got to identify groups and ones with tension, and then you want to stir up and fan the tensions to get them to fight each other on purpose. And if there can be chaos, and then you can co-opt the media to blame the leader and overthrow the country and do a coup. So again, I'm not commenting on the specifics of the situation with the mosque attack, but I can share this historical track record of other global powers wanting to have internal division and fighting inside of America.
Yeah. Pull that in a little bit there, Logan, if you would. Frame that up, because I want to give this quote. I gave it today on radio. I've given it before, but it bears repeating because, as you guys know by now, because we've talked about it enough, Alexander Dugin is known as Putin's brain. He's written a lot of books. And he wrote this in Foundations of Geopolitics. It is especially important to introduce geopolitical disorder into internal American activity, encouraging all kinds of separatism and ethnic, social, and racial conflicts, actively supporting and all dissident movements, extremist, racist, sectarian groups, thus destabilizing internal political processes in the U.S. It would also make sense simultaneously to support isolationist tendencies in American politics, end quote. Well, isn't that what we see going on? This geopolitical disorder, the internal conflict, extremist, racist groups, getting everybody pitting against everyone so nobody can get along, no great big coalition, and the country goes to war with each other. And that's, again, what we talked about today extensively with Trevor Loudon at the 1 o'clock Central Time slot. So I'm concerned. I know you are concerned for where the country's going. Tonight on the Worldview Report, I actually talked about I'll get another computer here. I got so many computers with so much information on it, but I'll pull up another computer here where today I talked about a lady running for office in Texas, okay? Believe it or not. Meet the Texas Democrat who wants a prison camp for American Zionists. Democrat congressional candidate San Antonio wants to turn an ICE detention center into a prison for American Zionists, and she has a runoff in 1 week. She wants them to be in prison. Accused Jewish Zionist of controlling politicians and the media, declared her runoff opponent should be tried for treason. Bill Malugin, who's with Fox News, said this. I'll pull up the full quote. She wants to turn the ICE detention center, quote, into a prison for American Zionists, end quote, and will use it as a castration processing center for pedophiles, quote, which will probably be most of the Zionists, end quote. Yes, it's real. And yes, the post is still up. She went on to claim things, I guess, about her opponent, part of a human trafficking conspiracy orchestrated by billionaire Zionist Jews. I bring all that up just to simply say, you know, we're in a time when we have the Islamists, the Marxists, whatever group you want to talk about. They're constantly coming at Christians, coming at the Jews. These are people that are winning elections. I'd be shocked if she won hers. But the mayor of New York City, he is about as radical as you can get. Newsom's about as radical as you can get, governor of California. Kamala Harris, that was who the Democrats wanted to run for president. Thankfully, she lost. She's about as radical as you can get. She's got a plan out to overthrow the country, I guess, by basically getting rid of the rule of law and just taking over by brute force. Virginia, they got radicals just trying to basically destroy the Electoral College. I see the handwriting on the wall that if these people get back into power, Bill, you and I might very well be fighting for our freedom to stay out of prison, to stay out of being indicted and spending our last dollar fighting them for trumped up charges of hate speech or whatever else. Tell me in conclusion what your concern is if these nut jobs saying these things take over and start winning elections, either by hook or crook.
Yeah, if we don't have honest elections, have the SAFE Act, if we lose the midterms, then they're going to immediately impeach Trump, all his cabinet, and then they're going to come after us. You know, the pro-life Catholics, they'll come after the moms that speak out at school board meetings because they don't want their child transitioned. But then on a global scale, there won't be any pushback against the globalists, and I could see us quickly falling into this one world government type of scenario. So Trump is not a globalist. He wants to make America great, but if he wasn't there, you would have. I tell people, I ran for office 3 times. I had to raise millions of dollars. When you run for president, you need billions of dollars, and there's a small pool of people that have that amount of money, which means that those running need to go to those with the money and more or less do a trade. You give me your money and I'll push your points. And so Trump is unique. I mean, who else can come up with $450 million for a bogus fine because he listed property higher than this person and this judge thought it should be listed? Anybody that sells a house lists it as high as they can, and it's up to the purchaser and the bank to decide what they want to lend. Trump didn't do anything wrong, but yet they fined him. Who else could come up with that money? He's totally unique. And again, I think he's the last chance to push back against globalism. And anyway, so all that to say, this is a time for each one of us. Every election is critical. This one's critical. And I think the Lord sort of has it that way on purpose to get us to come out of our complacency. And I tell people, by not getting involved, your silence is giving consent to the evil.
That's true.
It's like at a wedding ceremony. If you're silent, you're giving your consent. So you're not being spiritual by sitting out. You're actually giving your thumbs up to every evil thing that's out there. And so we need to take responsibility. But I appreciate you having me on, Brannon. You're a great leader, a great voice for truth. I run into people all across the country that watch you and have seen me on your programs. And so you're an encouragement to me and to millions of people.
Well, you're very kind. We've been working together now, probably, Bill, 30 years. So AmericanMinute.com, AmericanMinute.com. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Bill Federer checking in tonight. What an important topic. Let me give you another quote or two before we go to a quick break. Come back with, who's our next guest, Logan? Garland Favorito. Let's see here. You have so many quotes from John Stormer in his book. Let's see here. Look at this. There was a series of articles. This was by a columnist in St. Louis. Louis Lomax. Then one of America's leading Black authors. He was involved in a study of the 1967 Detroit riots. This is what he said. Quote, an organized group, this was a Black columnist, quote, an organized group largely from outside the Detroit area had been operating in the city more than a month. This group had an assignment, burn and destroy, end quote. Lomax said the group was highly organized, all well-trained, quote, not thieves and arsonists in the ordinary sense of the words, end quote. They are instead, he said, quote, revolutionaries committed to the conclusion that the power structure does not have the moral fiber to repent for its socioeconomic sins, that the only true corrective measure is to leave the nation in ashes, end quote. 1967. He said the principal U.S. cities have been chosen as the battleground simply because they afford the kind of cooperation by the innocent and the uninformed that such revolution needs, end quote. Folks, that's why we do what we do in part. Here he is saying they chose America for many reasons, of course. America is no longer here. You know how many other countries fall and fail? But he said they need the innocent and the uninformed for such a revolution. How many young people on the streets or will be on the streets soon who are there because they're frustrated? The price of a home, a car, health insurance. They feel the American dream is not attainable. Inflation, the hidden tax. They take that frustration and demoralization and they use it for destabilization. Isn't that what the former KGB officer Yuri Bezmenov warned about? Demoralized, destabilized chaos, and then the new norm of a socialist state. How many young people do we have to try to reach, folks, who are uninformed, don't understand the worldview war, don't understand that socialism and communism is not the answer? That is not going to make things better. Go to Cuba, check out what that's like. Everybody gets the same amount, the same check, the same amount of bags of rice, whether you're a doctor or a ditch digger. And when these people, when they do come to power, they never give power to the people, ever. Look at Cuba. Look at Venezuela. Look at East Germany, behind the Berlin Wall. They keep it for themselves. And of course, many of those people that help them get into power, the young people who are useful idiots, they become the most vocal and angry because they're not getting what they were promised. And those people are generally the first ones eliminated because they have too much clout, because they were community organizers to help bring about the revolution. But what we need is to make sure we don't have too many uninformed young people that will throw in with this, something that we've been warned about again and again and again. And here we are. And it's going to come from places we didn't expect. Neo-Nazis, communist neo-Nazis mixed together for national Bolsheviks, going after a mosque. Not because they disagree with the mosque, because those guys in their manifesto talked about it being the Jews. You would think Islam, with its hatred of the Jews, they'd be united. But again, what they're trying to do is bring about a civil war, manufactured chaos. They do this. The left puts in more gun controls. The right, they hope, will scream and holler to the point of a civil war. We have to be careful to examine everything that's going on. That's why when I saw those gas cans with those lightning bolts on them from the Nazis, I thought, wait a minute, why are perceived neo-Nazis attacking a mosque? Something doesn't add up. The worldview of Islam and the worldview of the Nazis have a long history of working together, as we said, back to Hitler and the Grand Mufti of Palestine. When you know the worldviews, when you know the ideas, when you know the history, you can then look at modern events and say, something doesn't add up. No, those are not groups that would normally be against each other. Those are groups that would work together to defeat a shared enemy, the Christian and the Jews. So why do we have neo-Nazis attacking a mosque? Something's not adding up here. Isn't that the show we did yesterday? So we went to research it. We get the manifesto, this nearly 75-page manifesto of these two kids. We start studying who it is they're following. And we find out very fast that part of this national Bolshevik movement is, which is being pushed, many believe here, by Russia, the Putin worldview, is to create conflict and civil war in America. Sadly, this again goes back to worldview training, understanding the 6 dominant worldviews that rule the world, and how many of them are now merging together or will work together, whether it's the red-green axis, the red being the Marxist, the green being the Islamist, or what we're really describing here is the black-brown axis of communism with the brown shirts, the communist and the brown shirts of the Nazis, the communist, the black, the brown shirts, the brown, merging together for what really is a nationalistic movement, these Bolsheviks. And then you take them and they work with the green for a green, black, brown axis. And sometimes there's going to be friendly fire. So they can now paint anyone that speaks up about Islam, like us, and warns about it, as part of that movement. As, oh, those are guys that are haters like that group. Trying to connect any truth-speaking conservative or Christians with those people. No, and that's why we condemned that in the highest manner yesterday. But they also want to do these things to bring about laws that will criminalize free speech. So if we have one attack on Muslims after another, then pretty quick, well, we have to have laws that tackle hate speech, and you can't say things about Islam. That's what they do in Europe, and you get arrested for speaking truth about Islam. We would be in trouble for saying the things we say in America if we lived over there. And what they want to do is limit free speech so that then the right will react. So whether it's going after free speech, going after the Second Amendment, their goal is to cause this agitation to the point that justification is brought at the local and state level, and if they get the opportunity at the federal level, to bring legislation that begins to criminalize the conservatives and the Christians. But how did we get this to this point? You had agitators deliberately creating chaos and crime to justify the legislation to crack down on the Christian and conservative right, hoping that some of them will then pick up arms and go to a civil war. Don't be played, folks. We don't want to be played. We have to understand their tactics. We don't want to play into their hand. That's why I did my commentary last night at the end of the Worldview Report. Stop calling yourself Christian nationalists. You're playing into a slogan they want you to be defined by, as in like neo-Nazis. So what we've learned tonight is that oftentimes what we see requires a deep worldview understanding to fully understand. If you don't have the worldview understanding, you're not going to understand. You won't be able to look at the news of the day and say, wait a minute, there's red flags here. Why? Because I know these worldviews normally are lined up with each other, so we better go investigate. Isn't that what we said yesterday? That's what we did. Now we brought you the answers. But remember, a revolution like this going back to the 60s, they said requires a lot of uninformed, easily manipulated young people. Oh, this is why it's so important that you as parents and grandparents are informing and educating your young people, learning these things, and then talking to them so that they aren't the useful idiots for a Marxist revolution in America. Let's take a quick break, come back. Garland Favorito, let's talk about voter fraud, election integrity, what just happened in Georgia. And remember, Georgia, in many ways, has become a swing state like Wisconsin and other states. It can make or break a presidential election. Didn't we see that with President Trump in 2020? What's going on in Georgia? Because it does matter when it sets the tone for federal elections. Let's talk to him about that and where he thinks things are going for the fall. Okay? We'll be right back with Garland Favorito.
For over 35 years, Brannon Howse has helped Christians understand the times. Now everything he's built lives in one place, the Worldview Tube Vault. Step inside and you'll find thousands of hours of exclusive programming on the Bible, culture, and the worldview issues shaping our world. Ebooks, audiobooks, documentaries, and decades of teaching, all in one searchable library. There's a brand new courses feature, led by our first release, the Book of Revelation, taught verse by Brannon Howse. Grave Influence and more courses are on the way. Read Brannon's books, Marxianity, Grave Influence, Religious Trojan Horse, Put Your Beliefs to the Test, and his upcoming Revelation commentary, every title also available as an audiobook. Plus all his documentaries, Siege, Sabotage, and Brainwashed America, with Part 3 coming soon. Vault members can also stream the 2026 Worldview Weekend Conference, plus presentations from past Ozarks conferences. And coming soon, our new Bible and Worldview software, answering your questions from a trusted quarantine database of sound teachers and scholars. Join today at worldviewtube.com/vault. Plans start at just $7.99 a month.
Joining now is Garland Favorito. We have a lot of election news to catch up on. Hello, Garland. Welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Brannon, it's good to be back with you.
Great to have you back. Let's start out with some good news. The Secretary of State, he was running for governor, Brad Raffensperger. He lost last night. Praise the Lord. What a piece of garbage in my mind. That's my opinion. He's garbage.
Well, yeah, it wasn't close. He was never really in it. But not only did he lose, his henchman, Gabe Sterling, who was running for Secretary of State, also lost big. And the Attorney General, Chris Carr, who has been serving as Brad Raffensperger's lapdog, he went down in flames as well. I think between all three of them, they didn't even get 40% of the vote total in all three of them. I think they were running between 8 to 16% each.
Now, did they get replaced by rhinos or MAGA?
Well, that's the interesting thing, Brannon. There are Kemp people and MAGA people or Trump people in each of the key races in the state of Georgia. And if Trump pays a visit down here, there could be a clean MAGA sweep of all the major offices.
Nice.
U.S. Senate, governor, lieutenant governor, right on down the line. So I think really President Trump, all he has to do is show up here and Georgia will be his.
Well, that'd be great because Georgia's really been going to the left under the Republicans. I mean, weird to say, right? But they've been going completely leftist under the Republicans.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because the Republicans, I think, are not really Republicans. They're Republicans in name only. And there's not much of an incentive to go out and vote for them.
Mm-hmm. So like in South Dakota, a lot of the Democrats run as Republicans, but people know they're Democrats. Some of them do, some of them don't. But they can't win as a Democrat, so they run as Republicans. That's what goes on in Georgia too, right?
Oh, yeah, we have a lot of that, not just at the state level, but also at the county level. In fact, this would be a whole nother subject for another show, but we have a county in Northwest Georgia that is suing over that very thing right now, Catoosa County, where these commissioners are running as Republicans, and they have sued to try to keep them from running as Republicans because they're not endorsed by the Republican Party. They have had to beat back a corrupt judge up there and now have that in the Court of Appeals, where they are likely to win and get these rhinos booted out.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about something known as the bunker. What is that? You're already laughing. Okay, what's that all about?
Well, Brannon, I'm going to tell you, but I don't think you're not going to believe me. But the Secretary of State, as for several elections, aggregates the statewide results on election night, verifies them, and reports them out of a secret bunker that he has denied access to the state election board members from. So, and this is in direct violation of Georgia law, which requires all election activities to be performed in public. It's very clear. The statute is 212406, and there are other statutes as well. But there can be no dispute about what the law is, and there can really be no dispute about what he is doing, and there should be no dispute about what he is doing is in conflict with Georgia law.
Okay, so let me go back here. You're saying he had some kind of bunker. Do you guys know where it was?
Well, we think we know where it is, but it is in the Metro Atlanta area. It's part of the Georgia Emergency Management Association, and it is a legitimate bunker for emergency, actions, whatever emergency procedures and things might be needed. But that doesn't mean that the Secretary of State should aggregate election results in the bunker. We have 159 counties down here that aggregate results from all their precincts every election, and not one of the 159 uses a secret bunker to do that. So there's no reason for Brad Ravensburger to do it either.
Yeah. Now, is it underground, or what do you know about it?
Yes, it is underground, and it's in an undisclosed location. We think we know where it is, though. It's in an undisclosed location. It's in underground in the Emergency Operations Center for the Georgia Emergency Management Agency, as far as we can tell.
Okay.
It's not showing up as live, but yeah.
Now, I have a video here. What is this State Election Board special called meeting May 14, 2026? What is this?
This is probably, there's two incredibly good videos where the state election board members discuss all this. Mm-hmm. And one of them is just fascinating. When they discovered that, then they actually talked about it and brought this to the attention of the public. It wasn't really known before. And then I think the video you've got queued up there, Brannon, is the May 14th video where they discuss all of the laws, election transparency laws that Secretary of State is not complying with.
Okay. Now, is this Janice Johnson? Is that her name?
Dr. Janice Johnson is the vice chair of the board. She is one of the greatest patriots in the state.
Yeah, she's done an amazing job. She's a medical doctor, right?
She is. She's an obstetrician. She has delivered quite a few babies. Yeah,
she's amazing. We've played a lot of clips of her with you. She's really been quite bold getting to the bottom of all this stuff. Let me just play a small snippet from her. Here we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Sarah, did you vote nay?
I did.
Oh, okay. So we have a 2-2 vote, so the motion fails to carry.
And Madam Chair, that's all that I had to present. I thank the board for giving me this time.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. The only thing I would like to add to the Director Mills' report is in the hiring of two part-time investigators just in the last few days, there seemed to be an issue with HR at the Secretary of State's office that initially seemed to be some obstruction with our proceeding with hiring that apparently was resolved. However, there seemed to be a leak of the hiring process of an applicant that was leaked to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution paper that could not have come from anywhere else but either the Secretary of State's office or perhaps the chairman. I'm concerned that we get calls from the AJC based on a mere applicant for a job, which I fear will interfere with our hiring process each and every time. This seems to be a recurring problem with this board of leaking information to the press to perhaps intend to affect the functions and activities and actions that this board is dealing with every day, every week.
Let me maybe address that. So, I understand the good doctor here is saying there seems to be people trying to sabotage the great work they're doing there.
Brannon, there is no question about that. And the person that is sabotaging it is the chairman of the state election board. He has done everything he can do to subvert investigations into Fulton County for the 2020 election. He even pulled this stunt where he left a meeting open, didn't close it out correctly, in an attempt to purge expert testimony that was given by Clay Parikh and myself and Philip Davis. That would have been expunged from the record had the state election board not come in and done another meeting behind it to make sure that everything was closed out correctly. They ended up getting sued because of what the chairman did. That's just one example. We would have to have a whole show of all of the things that he has done to try to subvert investigations into Fulton County. Fortunately, the three-member board, who are the majority, the five-member board, but three of them are very concerned about election integrity. They have been able to overcome all of his subversive behavior. But yes, that was one part of it. And also, the Secretary of State's office has been very subversive as well, trying to undermine the state election board's attempts to get to the bottom of cases where they have not investigated properly.
Of course, people watching in another state say, what do I care about Georgia? Because these are federal elections, and we're talking about the Electoral College, and it could be that close of a margin, as we well know. So the beat goes on there in Georgia. Now we have reports.
We've seen in the past. And we've seen that in the past, Brannon, in 2020.
What are you hearing about elections coverage, investigations out of the DOJ? Todd Blanche seems to be hinting at back there. Is there a grand jury that's been convened? What are you hearing about them getting out a report and maybe some information that validates indeed there was massive voter fraud, as so many were saying in 2020 for President Trump?
Well, I think he's publicly said that there are multiple grand jury investigations in multiple states. We are very pleased. I think we discussed this on your show before, but we're very pleased with their search warrant affidavit. They have a lot of rock solid evidence in it, 5 different areas of probable cause. I think that will all lead to indictments before the end of the year.
Whatever happened, without saying anything that gets you or me sued, whatever happened with Rudy Giuliani's case, that was based out of Georgia, right?
Well, yeah, the case was about Georgia, and in regards to the way he treated the 2 workers. I think everybody knows the names of the workers, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. But there was some issue with that. I don't know what the status of that is. I think that he had ended up settling that case.
That's what I heard. That's what I read. I just didn't know where those funds came from and if that left him in bad spot or if someone else came in and helped him with those. Because I'd heard rumors of that some deep pockets helped him out.
I honestly don't know much about that case, Brannon, because we've been so swamped with so many different
That's fine.
issues.
Well, let me ask you about another thing then. Where are you guys at with anyone down there or in the DOJ prosecuting Fannie Willis? Was that her name?
Yeah, Fannie Willis was the district attorney in Fulton County. Just a quick nutshell.
The one that indicted Trump, and he had to go down there and get his mugshot and all that.
That's right. And so the short story on that one is, Brannon, is that she went to the Fulton County Commission. She asked for another $5 million a year to reduce the murder case backlog in Georgia, in Fulton County. That was in the fall of 2021. In January of 2022, when she got the money and started flowing in, she opened that investigation. And as you said, Brannon, it resulted in not only just the indictment of President Trump, but 18 of Fannie Willis's political adversaries. Eventually, she was removed from the case, as well as her boyfriend, who was the lead investigator against Trump, Nathan Wade. They were both removed from the case. And the state prosecuting attorney's counsel found that all 41 of her counts were not prosecutable under Georgia law. So that is where that case stands now. The issue is no one has moved to impeach her yet. There is a bar complaint against her. There'll probably be more coming, more bar complaints over that. But so far, she is riding high, and she's trying to get as many Fulton County judges installed in Fulton County as she possibly can. And she had some success in the recent election.
So is the DOJ investigating her? Is she going to be held accountable or not?
I am not privy to what the DOJ may be doing in that particular regard, but I would certainly think so, because that is clearly the greatest case of prosecutorial misconduct in American history.
Mm-hmm. Now, you were brought in, were you not, as a consultant or something by the DOJ?
No, I've not been brought in by the DOJ. I would expect a call any day, possibly, but I have not had any contact with him, other than the fact that we did send them evidence of the issues that Fulton County had. And that, you might remember, State Election Board requested DOJ assistance. We did back them up with some more documents, and we also requested DOJ assistance. And we got it with the search warrant that was executed on January 28th of this year.
But you would not. Did you just say you wouldn't be shocked if you did get a call from the DOJ asking you to help?
I would not be shocked, because a lot of the evidence in the that they used in the probable cause case, that the search warrant, was basically evidence that our volunteers had put together over the last few years.
Okay. So let me ask you in closing here tonight, what are your thoughts in regards to election integrity and moving forward to the midterms? Because President Trump is putting out, related to what's going on with one state that dropped some of their ballots, mail-in ballots, and then they had to turn around and recreate those. I can find those real quick. And those, let's see, where was that? That was in Maryland. Here it is, Maryland.
Yes.
Trump calls for investigation into Maryland elections after mail-in ballot disaster. And I guess what happened is Maryland, they says President Trump sent out 500,000 illegal mail-in ballots, and they got caught. So now they're going to send out 500,000 more mail-in ballots, but nobody knows what's happening with the first 500,000 they sent. In addition, many of these ballots went to Democrats, so any Republican running in Maryland doesn't have a chance. This was done by a corrupt governor of the state, Wes Moore. He allowed this to happen in order to make sure the Democrats win. How much of this is going on, you think, in other states coming up for the fall?
Yeah, it's a great question, Brannon. I don't know, but that was an egregious example, and I'm glad. I think that the DOJ will pursue that. But for what's upcoming, I think there's several things that have to be done. President Trump has two great executive orders, 14248, which was back last year, March 25th, and then this year he had another one, 14399. To address the mail-in ballot situation in U.S. citizenship. As you know, this Save America Act is not moving in the Congress. So his executive order this year, 14399, would help compensate for that. I think that will stand up in court because the federal government has jurisdiction over both the post office and the U.S. citizenship determinations, which are the essence of that order. But the one that is really disturbing is the 14248. He ordered the EAC to decertify all QR coded voting systems. And the EAC has not acted. It's been over a year and they're ignoring the order. We've had to file a lawsuit to vacate the certification of Dominion system, the QR coded system here in Georgia, because it never met the original certification guidelines. So that is ongoing, and we're actually fighting to uphold President Trump's executive order. We're fighting the EAC, and the DOJ right now is having to defend the EAC to prevent them, basically to prevent Trump's order from being implemented. So that's kind of an ironic situation we're in right now. But that order to decertify QR-coded voting systems needs to be upheld by the EAC. And the EAC is and when I say EAC, I'm talking about Election Assistance Commission, the federal commission. They are so hand-tied, they can't get anything done. It's two Democrats, two Republicans, and we just need to really probably get rid of it if they can't do anything.
Now, what about a report I read there in Georgia? Like 100 different sites have come up missing their Dropbox videos. So they're mail-in or their Dropbox ballot videos. Is that right?
Yeah, that was back in 2020. We found surveillance were missing, I think, for something like 181,000 ballots that were taken in. We found all kinds of chain of custody problems for over 100,000 ballots that were taken in from drop boxes. It's just a disaster. They were all kinds of crazy things. They picked them up according to the forms after the election was conducted or before the drop boxes was installed, or they picked them up within 3 minutes from drop boxes that were 30 minutes apart. There were all kinds of crazy things, lacking 2 signatures, which they were required to do. So, but all of that was from 2020. The good news is that all outdoor drop boxes were banned in Georgia in 2022, and we won't have that problem again. We still have drop boxes in the polling locations, but they are only available during hours in which the polling locations are open.
Okay. Anything on regards to the attack on the Electoral College that you're tracking? Obviously, Virginia wants to give whoever wins the popular vote would get the Electoral College votes of Virginia. I don't know if that's being challenged in the courts. If it isn't, it will be. I can promise you that. But what else are you hearing by the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden progressive types to attack the Electoral College? Because just for a reminder, for those who maybe don't know, most of our audience does, the Electoral College is what protects states like New York and California, a few other big liberal ones, from choosing our president. They could ignore all the rest of the states and just win a few popular votes and boom. So we got to have Electoral College to even things out. They're trying to destroy the Electoral College. What's the latest you're hearing on that?
Well, the good news is, Brannon, that they would require 5 more states because that would require a constitutional amendment. They don't have enough states that are willing to do that. But the bad news is that they have, I think, 32 out of 38. And I might be wrong with those numbers. But so they are trying to do that. And it's an absurd thing to think about. Well, here I am in Georgia, and they're going to give Georgia's electoral votes away to whoever won the presidential vote, regardless. It's just absurd. The concept is just absurd. Why should the people of New York or California determine whose Georgia's electoral votes are going to be given to? The premise of the whole thing is absolutely absurd.
Well, it passed the Virginia House 61 to 36, the Senate 21 to 19. And this is all being brought on by a group known as the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. This makes Virginia the 18th state plus Washington, D.C. to enter into this agreement.
Yeah, and they need more states. I forget how many they have to have, but they've got quite a few ways to go. Of course, Virginia flipped back, if you believe the election results, from Republican to Democrat. And I think that's how they were able to get that passed.
So, in closing then, what do you see coming in the fall?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm not very good at speculating on what may or may not happen. Things are looking very interesting here in Georgia. Like I said before, we have the potential of a MAGA sweep here.
Do you really?
Yeah, and we also have the potential of a close to a Kemp sweep. Well, not really. Some of the Kemp's people have already been eliminated, but things are looking pretty good here in Georgia if Trump makes a trip.
What about the rest of the country?
Yeah, it's hard for me to keep track of everything that is going on in the other states. So it's just really kind of unpredictable. There is a little bit of a split in the MAGA movement over Trump's policies, and then, of course,
Really? I didn't realize that.
A little bit. Yeah.
I'm being facetious. Of course, Thomas Massey lost last night, which I think he probably deserved to lose. But he's just kind of gone more and more woke. But in his comments last night at his concession speech, they couldn't get a hold of his opponent because he was in Tel Aviv. Just in my opinion, it's fanning the flames of anti-Semitism. It's not necessary, and it's juvenile. And if that's the way he wants to behave, I'm glad he lost last night.
I don't really understand why he's been so aggressive.
Exactly.
Against President Trump. I understand you could have some disagreements with the president, but why? I don't know why he's been as aggressive as he has about the disagreements. We had the same problem with Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was loved with her in the 14th district here in Georgia, but she just became really overly aggressive in attacking President Trump when she had been one of his very best allies. Just very, very sad to see.
So, Logan, you there? You can jump on the mic if you want. We're doing our big election coverage for the midterms Tuesday night, November 3rd, 2026. Can we go ahead and book you now for that? We'll pay you an honorarium. Should we go ahead and book him now? And should we have him by Zoom, or should we bring him into studio again, Logan?
It's up to you.
I think we should bring him in, don't you?
Yeah.
I think we can. Can we go ahead and put you on the books? We'll pay your honorarium and your travel and join us in studio?
I think that will be fine, Brannon. I have to check with Tamara, but I think that's going to be fine. And if I'm doing it remote, I can't eat Memphis barbecue. There,
you cannot. You will not get the Melissa treatment if you stay at home. You come here, you get the Melissa treatment, and that includes, of course, the barbecue, but the other. I don't know what else she makes that you like. Of course, so many people love the potato dish she makes with the creamy potatoes and the cheese on top and all that other stuff she makes. So if you want the Melissa treatment, you're going to have to be in studio.
That sounds good. I think I will probably be able to confirm that just shortly.
All right. Text me. Let me know. I'm writing your name down. We'll cover your hotel and give you an honorarium and come join us in the Mid-South Tuesday night, November 3rd. And we'll add you to that lineup Were you here 2 years ago? Is that would it be 2 years
Oh
ago?
yeah, yeah. I think I've been there for 24 and 22, if I'm not mistaken.
Was that the night? That was the night I had pneumonia. Got off the air and had a temperature of 103.
Yes, you were in bad shape. And
Yes,
then
I was. I
think that was the same night Roger Stone was in, or was that the year before?
That I think was the year before.
Yeah,
It was the year
2 years.
Who was with us then? Was that Garland with us 2 years ago then, Logan? And who else?
For the presidential election?
Was it? Yeah, that's right. Who was in studio that night?
Garland, I think. Who else? Just Garland, right? Or Garland and Leo?
Oh, it may have been Leo. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I remember watching. I remember watching it from your living room, watching the President Trump declare that he had won.
Yep. There you go. Well, we got you down. Check with your beautiful wife. I've got you down. And let me know if I have to veto her.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I don't
You
want to
probably
overrule her, but if I have to, I will.
Okay.
I'm sure she'll want to come up here to the Mid-South. There's always great shopping and stuff to see in the fall here.
Yeah, we had a great trip last time we were there. It's always great to see you in person. And
Absolutely. All right. Who else should we book? Anybody else you can think of we should add to the lineup that's really good on election coverage?
Well, your buddy Patrick Colbert comes to mind. You got there's let me think about that. I can probably come up with a couple.
Text me a couple more ideas if you have it. Okay. Yeah. Of course, we'll have Jim Paff probably on the ground in DC that night, Logan. So, all right.
Yeah.
Going to be a busy fall.
I'll check into that. I think we could come up with some really good people.
Awesome. Well, let me know. Send an email that the boss has confirmed you're coming here with her. Of course, we want her to show up with you. And let's get that confirmed because we would go ahead and start promoting it. We probably should go ahead and make some spots and start promoting that, Logan.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. People can book a party and tune into us. Invite your friends over, make some dip and chips and pizza and watch the election coverage from Worldview Tube with Garland Favorito in studio.
Thank you, Brannon. Appreciate the invite. It's always great to be with you.
You too. VoterGA.org, VoterGA.org. Garland Favorito checking in. He has the best last name. He's the funnest last name to say.
Most fun.
The most fun. What is Favorito? What is that, Garland? What nationality?
That is Italian.
That's what I figured. All right. Do you like
Italian, actually.
Do you like Italian food?
Oh, yes, indeed. Right up there next to the brisket.
All right. Well, we might have to do, you'll be here enough to maybe we can do Italian night one night and Memphis barbecue the next.
Great. I think you did that once. I think that worked out really well.
Melissa makes a mean lasagna, I'll tell you that. So, yeah. All right. Thank you, Garland.
All right. Thanks, Brandon.
Almost makes me wish for the fall to get here real fast, Logan, but we don't want to rush time too much, right? All right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Long before vitamins came in bottles, long before superfoods were trending, there was one source of nutrition that started it all. It came from the sea. Meet glutathione, medical-grade marine phytoplankton, and Earth's original source of nutrition. Just one scoop delivers the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells, packed with the same essential nutrients your body would get from eating the healthiest, most vibrant organic fruits and vegetables on the planet. But here's what makes glutathione different. Because it's a single-celled marine microalgae, your body absorbs it directly, in seconds. No digestion required, no nutrients lost. Just pure, balanced nutrition flooding your cells the moment you take it. It's the purest form of nutrition on Earth, cultivated for its exceptionally rich and balanced profile, designed to support your energy, your immune system, and your overall wellness naturally. Whether you're recovering, rebuilding, or simply ready to feel better than you have in years, glutathione meets your body where it needs it most. Visit melissahousegpa.com today. That's melissahousegpa.com and discover the original superfood your body has been waiting for. Glutathione, pure nutrition from the source.
All right, guys, we are going to go to 3 recordings that Aaron, our reporter and tour guide in Israel, sent us touring Israel. Okay. Again, he's brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. We send him regular love offerings so that we can get the reports we get as well as these tours that we get. So if you appreciate it, thank you for supporting us. And thus Aaron at worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Watch this.
Shalom, everyone. Aaron Lavaco speaking to you on behalf of Worldview Television and Radio. It's my honor and privilege to be able to stand here in the city of the great King, Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. And today is a special day because May the 14th, 59 years ago, 1967, was the day that Jerusalem was liberated. That's right. In 1948, when Israel became a nation, Jerusalem was split in two. West Jerusalem, which is where I'm standing here, this was inside of Israel. East Jerusalem was inside of Jordan. It belonged to Jordan, and that included the Temple Mount and the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall. But in 1967, our soldiers, led by one of the generals who would later become one of our prime ministers, Yitzhak Rabin, who actually sometime later was assassinated. He was one of the three generals that marched into Jerusalem after the city was liberated. So we're going to have a look around Jerusalem, but I'm standing here in a special valley. It's called the Valley of Matzelah, which in English means the Valley of the Cross. And this valley is believed to be the valley where 2,000 years ago, Jesus, when they put him up on the cross on Golgotha, up in the eastern part of Jerusalem, it's believed that this is the valley where they found the tree, the wood that they made the cross out of. Now that is tradition, it's fable, it's myth, but I've mentioned this a number of times. The longer a tradition lasts, the more credibility that tradition has. And we know that that tradition has lasted at least 1,700 years. How do we know that? Because right there in the distance is a monastery. That monastery has been around. It was established in the early 4th century. It was established by a group of monks. They built that monastery for prayer, dedication, worship, and that's been around since the year 327. It's a large monastery. I'll try to get a better view and get a little bit closer. But that monastery has approximately 300 rooms. So it's a massive sized monastery. We're just walking up through the valley here, filled with a lot of olive trees and other kinds. I saw a fig tree back there as well. It's a really nice nature walk. A lot of people go for nature walks along here. Pretty safe. But there we have a closer look of the Monastery of the Cross. Now it was founded in the early 4th century, but it was re-established. This monastery here was re-established in the early 11th century, about 1025. By Orthodox Christians from Georgia. And I'm not talking about Georgia, one of the southern states of in the United States. I'm talking about in Europe, Georgia, right there on the borders of Russia. And this path holds this tradition because that's what pilgrims would do. They would come to the land, and especially in the 4th century, because what happened in the 4th century, the whole face of the Roman Empire changed. The first 3 centuries after Jesus, it was very Roman pagan. But one of the Roman emperors, a man called Constantine, and his mother Helena, he became a Christian. Not sure what kind of Christian, how dedicated he was. We know his mother, Helena, was very, very dedicated. And so Helena came and she found a lot of places and relics. And then pilgrimage became very, very popular, very important. This was the period for the next 4 centuries before Islam came that was called either the Christian period here or the Byzantine period. Why the Byzantine period? Because Constantine the Great, he knew that the seat of the church had an office in the west, which was Rome. He wanted one also in the east. So he found a place in what's called today's Turkey called Byzantine or Byzantine. Actually, he changed the name to Constantinople. He named it after himself, Constantine. That is today's Istanbul, if ever you go into that region. And so now we have a seat of authority in the west and in the east. And what should have actually been a move to bring more unity actually created kind of disunity, but that's another story which we'll keep for another time. One more thing I want to show you that's connected to the Valley of the Cross and the liberation of Jerusalem. It's a stone here, and you'll see the date on the stone. It's from the 5th to the 10th of June, 1967. And this stone was erected and sculpted by a very famous sculptor who wanted to commemorate what happened on that amazing day and at that incredible time. That's about 3-4 weeks after the actual liberation day. But we see the date 1967. It's a stone. Remember in the Bible when the Israelites, they wanted to commemorate an event, a happening, and they set up stones to remember. And the scriptures say, until this day, these stones are there. Well, this is another stone of memorial that was erected to commemorate Yom Yerushalayim, the liberation of Jerusalem. Friends, back 59 years ago today was the first time in almost 2,000 years that East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem was divided and under sovereign Jewish hands, including the Temple Mount. The chief rabbi, Shlomo Goren, went up to the Western Wall with a group of Jewish people and some of the soldiers. They were weeping with joy as they sang some of the songs of ascent, the Psalms of Ascent, as we used to go up in the days of the Israelites 3 times a year. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and to the house of the God of Jacob. And he blew the shofar, and the people were weeping with a mixture of grief and pain, because it was called the Wailing Wall, but also out of intense joy, because Jerusalem was in our hands after almost 2,000 years, and that's what we're going to be celebrating today. The prophet Isaiah spoke about 2,700 years ago. In chapter 60, verse 18, he says, Jerusalem will no longer be a city under threat, but it says your walls will be called salvation and your gates praise. By the way, the Hebrew word salvation is Yeshua. So it means your walls will be called Yeshua and your gates praise. By the way, for those of you who don't know, the Hebrew word Yeshua means salvation, which is the same as the Greek for Jesus. So it's a prophecy about one day when we come back, we will rebuild up Jerusalem. Of course, that was fulfilled in the days of Nehemiah. When we returned, we built up the walls, and we repaired the gates, and we repaired the temple. But this is a different day. Today is the 59th anniversary of the liberation, the reunification of Jerusalem on May the 14th. And I'm standing here just on a simple intersection. And here on this intersection, there's so many things that show and prove that the prophets, that the word of God is reliable. For example, here in the distance, you've got this white domed building. This is the Israel Museum. Inside of that dome are the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yes, in fact, that white dome is in the shape of the top of a jar, as if that's where the scrolls were found. So that's the Israel Museum. That's just on one side. Here in front is the flag of Israel and the flag of Jerusalem with the lion on it. That's the symbol of Jerusalem. And then when we turn over in this direction, a little bit towards the east, that is our government building. That's called the Knesset. That's where our 120 members sit and debate and discuss. And I'm reminded of that verse which says, the government shall be on his shoulders. You know, some of the psalms that we sing, especially when we used to go up to Jerusalem 3 times a year, and we would sing the Psalms of Ascent. And one of the Psalms is Psalm 122, which says, for there sit the thrones of judgment, the thrones of the house of David. Well, that government house still sits as the house of David. And the Jewish people are waiting for their Messiah. They're going to call him the Son of David. Well, we know that Messiah has already come, and his name is the Son of David, Yeshua. And then the other interesting building is right in front of me there, and it's the Israel National Library. It has tens of thousands of books and volumes in it. It's a pretty brand new building. It's been erected, I think, only for about 2 years now. And by the way, if you look at the slope in the middle and the 2 peaks on either side, I believe it's in the shape of the old first Prime Minister of Israel, David Ben-Gurion. He was bald, but he had white hair sticking up on both sides of his head. So here is a very good example, everyone, on just an intersection here in Western Jerusalem. May the 14th, Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day, bearing witness to the prophets that say Jerusalem will be built up once again. And people I'm seeing with flags on their way, young people there across the road, we're going to see a lot of them later on, there, and buses all going up, all coming up from all around the country to celebrate Jerusalem Day. So when we get closer to the center of town, I'll zoom in a little bit and we'll get to experience more of the celebrations at Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day, here in the city of the great King. You can feel the excitement. You can feel, especially during a time of war. In fact, there's high alert because any moment we're expecting the war to break out again. So everyone has been warned what to do, especially when there's huge, large crowds. Usually in a war, they cancel celebrations and days like today, but not today. Today, we are going to celebrate Jerusalem Day, just like all these young people who have come up from all around the country. So stand by and we'll get more of the celebrations. Here in Jerusalem, you're going to see symbols like the one behind me of a lion. Why? Because the lion is Jerusalem's symbol, because this is the land of Judah. This is where Judah, the son of Jacob, one of the sons of Israel, was allotted their land. And when it was prophesied, their land would come from Judah someone who would be like a lion. That was like the characteristic of Judah. So everywhere around Jerusalem you see lions, symbolic of the promise to Judah. Even on the flag of Jerusalem, we see a symbol of a lion. Now, one of the other things about Jerusalem is Jerusalem was always the legislative magistrate place. As it's mentioned in Psalm 122, for there the tribes go up, the tribes of the Lord, where there are judgments of the house of David. So, shalom, shalom. Some girls coming up to celebrate Jerusalem Day. Hi. And right there, actually, in the distance, is Jerusalem's High Court of Justice building. Now, what's interesting, there's a bridge here, and that bridge is actually built in the form of an old scale called an abacus. In that High Court of Justice building are lots of biblical references on the wall. For example, the one that I just quoted to you from Psalm 122, and also from Proverbs 11, verse 1, which says, a false balance is an abomination unto the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. So that's why you've got the abacus here. And let me tell you, when it comes to justice, and I know we've had periods and I know we're far from perfect as a nation, but we have a very high sense of justice. You know, we've had ex-presidents that have been sent to prison, ex-prime ministers who have been sent to prison, Ehud Olmert. So no one is above the law. Our prime minister, people are wanting to send him to prison. So we have a very high sense of justice. In fact, in the book of Deuteronomy, it says, Shoftim v'shotrim tiyu b'shareichem. Magistrates and officials or policemen shall be in your gates in the city. And the reason why is that when people, just a second, there's a fire engine going by. Because when people came into a city, the gates were the entrance. They were the most important part of a city. And so what you would do is when you had justices and police and enforcers at the gates of the city, it was supposed to put a bit of fear into you to show that there is law and order. And so we have the High Court of Justice building, as I mentioned, just up there on the hill. It's been there for about 25 years, a beautiful building, fantastic tours, and there is a bridge in the shape of an abacus. And you know, it's also a reminder that every one of us, one day, we're going to meet our Creator. There will be a day of judgment. So people who think that they're getting away and people who are trying to cheat the system, remember what it says in the book of Numbers, be sure your sins will find you out. And I think this is healthy for a society. In fact, the prophets, quite often, they would speak out against corruption, against falseness. Jeremiah the prophet in chapter 6, he says, from the prophet to the priest, everyone has dealt unjustly. And he says, were they ashamed? No, they were not at all ashamed. Neither could they blush. So he says, stand in the way. Ask for the ancient paths. Ask where the old way is and walk therein. Thank God that that our God is merciful, always giving us the opportunity to turn and repent and find forgiveness.
All right, guys, that's our broadcast for tonight. Again, if you appreciate what we're doing, we appreciate your support. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. We will not have our Sunday night church service because it's Memorial Day weekend. I'm going to spend time with the family and continue working on my Revelation commentary. I have to finish it all up this weekend as far as any edits for the most part. And I'm also working on my filming the rest of Brainwashed America Part 3. So I will be in studio Thursday, tomorrow, but I'm going to be filming Brainwashed America and then working Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday on the book of Revelation. So I'm going to be gone till, Lord willing, next Tuesday. I'll be back. May God bless America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon Howse.
Welcome. Glad you guys are with us today. We're going to be joined by Trevor Loudon. You know, yesterday I had on Annie Cyrus because I said something just isn't adding up here when it comes to this San Diego mosque shooting and the tragic murder of 3 people at that mosque. Something isn't adding up. And remember we talked about the SS lightning bolt logos on the gas can? Wait a minute. This isn't adding up because historically, the Muslim Brotherhood, the Grand Mufti of Palestine, al-Husseini, he worked with Hitler. Hitler put him up in an apartment in Berlin, and he was broadcasting and calling for the Muslims of the world to unite with the Nazi Reich. In fact, he even recruited thousands of Bosnian Muslims to wear the Nazi uniforms. We have the pictures. He, the al-Husseini, walked the grounds in the planning process of some of the concentration camps. We have those pictures. Nuremberg trials documented. He was the one that called for not letting some